See it in my phone. Good. Don't see it in my phone. Not good. Okay. So we still having the brothers still set it up. You have to get maybe 2 laptops, Andrew. What do you think? As a backup, make sure they don't both have to update at the same time, or something. Or we may have to just have our brothers take it home and just check it. Right. Check, yeah. Yeah, like Thursday night or Friday afternoon, we could just check it, upgrade, because you could just check it to when it's the next schedule upgrade or. Okay. Okay. All right, very good. So are we ready to go? Guys? You guys have a mic? Okay. You just so you just waiting to go live? Okay, all right. Looks like we live. Hey. Gracious to the Most High. Yep, we're good. Okay. All right, all praise to the Most High. All right, so Shabbat Shalom, everyone who's joining us online. We do apologize for the delay. We had to switch laptops because the laptop we used, it was going through an upgrade, and it does that randomly, which we can't control. So we had to switch over laptop in the last minute. So that's the reason why it was a delay. So we do apologize for those that are watching online. Okay, so we're gonna get started. I know people are still coming in, sitting down, or things of that nature. But let's try to keep the noise as down as possible. Okay, so today's lesson is meat versus vegetarian, or veggies. What is the best route to go? And today's, I'm not gonna be one side or the other, although to be, total transparently speaking, I'm looking to get out of meat. I just want to get myself educated before I do it, because I don't want to just jump into it and get discouraged. But I heard good stories, I heard viral stories. I'm just going to get myself educated on the subject before I jump into that. But I'm going into try to reduce the ability of meat consumption as much as possible, right? So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so today we're going to be going into touching several things. Being a vegan, vegetarian, the paleo diet, a documentary called The Game Changer. Okay, I recommend anybody who has Netflix to watch this. The guy who did Terminator, the director, James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jackie Chan are the producer of this movie. They are I know James Cameron and his wife are launching or are trying to launch the biggest protein supplement, vegan supplement, or they're trying to just kind of, not supplement necessarily, they're trying to create anything you could eat as a carnivore, steak, chicken. They want to create that, but in the vegan version. And some restaurants do that, and they do it well. You think you're eating chicken, but it's not chicken. You think you're eating beef, but it's actually all plant-based. And then, so that's something we may have to have a conversation with our chefs, because we may have to learn that, right? Okay, so also we're gonna go into the industrial industry. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the documentary. Now, one thing about the documentary, they were able to prove, because there was always a myth that if you are vegan, you could not be strong. You're always the weak, skinny guy who is one piece on earth, and not associated with aggressiveness. So yeah, he's always the image. You never see guys who are athletes that are vegans. This documentary clearly proves and shows beyond a reasonable doubt that you could be a vegan and compete competitively in the sport world, right? So let's go to the next slide. And then is that mic on?
Yes.
Okay. No, the one by the making sure that is by because it's all right. So these are some of the athletes. Okay, Patrick Boom Boom. This guy been a vegan since 6 years old. Obviously, his mother or his father was a vegan, so he grew up. He's a strongman competition. These are guys that pick up cars and bricks and all kinds of weird things. Okay.
1 second, Elder.
All right, what's going on here? Talk to me. Let's try to keep this. If it's working, don't change it. What's going on here? All right, guys.
Because it's not online yet, so.
Well, I'm seeing it online here.
Oh, you're on? You're streaming?
Yeah, I see it. Everything was fine. My advice, guys, always check a phone or not, okay. All right. So we back on?
On, Elder.
Okay. All right. So let's go to the next slide. These are some other actors: Patrick Baboon, Kendrick Francis, and Morgan Mitchell. These are all athletes, and they're all competing. Olympic track stars, power lifter. These are all vegan, plant-based athletes, right? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, these are all other more famous athletes. And of course, I mentioned before, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan is one of the producers of this documentary. Also, we got famous boxers, also MMA fighter. These are all vegan people, right? Now, and these are all featured in the documentary. Now, there was another athlete that technically is not a vegan or a vegetarian, but I believe, and he was not added or called to the documentary, but I believe he should have, because he's, great athlete. Go to the next slide. This guy. You ever heard of this guy? I don't know why they didn't call this guy. What happened, What happened, Camera didn't call this guy. This guy's an athlete. Yeah, he's not a vegan, but still. All right, next slide. That was a joke. Okay. That was my evil twin brother. Okay, he's a boxer. All right. Past life. Okay, so do we have the mic? Is it working? Okay, this is the actual clip of the documentary. So let's hear it. Let's see it.
One and only Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I ate a lot of meat. They showed us commercials
Steak. That's what a man eats.
selling that idea that real men eat meat.
Serious man food.
But you got to understand, that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
I've been teaching fighting techniques to government agencies for more than 15 years. Then I got injured. Unable to teach for at least 6 months. I spent more than 1,000 hours studying science on recovery and nutrition, and stumbled across a study about the Roman gladiators.
The gladiators were predominantly vegetarian.
How could the original professional fighters be so powerful, eating only plants?
When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, I qualified for my 3rd Olympic team. I broke 2 American records. I was like, man, I should have done this a long while ago.
When I went plant-based, I wasn't sure if I was going to survive. And I actually became like a machine.
One of the biggest misconceptions in sports nutrition is that we have to have animal protein to perform at a high level. That's just not true.
Sometimes you have to do things that you know your competitors aren't doing.
Today's blood and yesterday's blood. Yeah.
I think this is going to wake a lot of people up.
I was recovering better, not being as sore. This was our best season in the last 15 years, and we had 14 guys on plant-based diets.
We all want to feel great, have more energy.
Cholesterol was 276. Today, 169.
Whoa, now you're talking.
Most guys my age can keep up with the grandchildren. My grandchildren can't keep up with me.
It's not one set of dietary guidelines for improving your performance as an athlete, another one for reversing heart disease, reversing diabetes. It's the same for all of them.
Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat?
So I saw the documentary and it blew my mind. Going vegan. That's it. Right? Because I don't know if you guys, I got diagnosed with a disease. I don't know if you guys know. Okay? It's called getting 40. Ever heard that disease yet? The testosterone level. You too? Anybody? Yeah, 40, yeah, you got the disease too? 40? Yeah, 50 is coming, so that's another disease. Okay? All right? So, getting older, I'm not the guy that I used to be when I used to compete. I can't do that anymore, Although it's a little voice in my head telling me, yes, you can. But I always ignore it. A fighter's always a fighter. Always gonna, we done jobs in other ways. But, when I saw this, I was up all night. I was like, wow. And I heard powerful stuff. Gladiators were vegans? Huh? Right? So I began to do more research. But sometimes when you see these things, you have to pump the brakes and take a beat and actually get the research and things of that nature to make sure what you're hearing is the right information. But clearly, all these athletes are vegans. They're succeeding in their profession. So they prove that you not only could survive as a vegan, but also thrive, be stronger than most of us here, not touching meat. So they prove that and things of that nature, right? So let's go to the next slide.
One and only Arnold.
Okay, so this guy is a doctor, and he has he's a health coach. He has all kinds of degrees. He has a podcast. He's been in Dr. Oz and magazines and things of that nature. He used to be a vegan, right? But then he kind of changed his mind, and he's going to go into why. So let's just read his MO real quick. If Yatabia Allah can do it real quick.
Chris Kresser is the creator of the ADAPT Practitioner and Health Coach Training Program. He is one of the most respected clinicians and educators in the field of functional medicine and ancestral health, and has trained over 1,300 health professionals around the world in his unique approach. Co-director of the California Center for Functional Medicine, creator of ChrisKresser.com, and New York Times best-selling author. Chris is a prolific communicator. His newest book is Unconventional Medicine.
Unconventional Medicine.
Chris was nominated Best Inspirational Voice and Best Health and Wellness Website by Paleo Magazine 2019.
Now, Paleo Magazine, because he's a paleo diet. Sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't agree with this guy. He's a strict evolutionist. His science is from an evolution perspective, but that's everybody and things of that nature. So, that's why I asked you about paleo diet, because he's an advocate. And the reason why I like this guy, although I disagree with his, evolution approach, because me being a Christian, however, though, he's a more liberal paleo diet person. He's a more realistic situation. And we're going to go into why. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, now we're going to watch this video. The title of the video is in the bottom. If you look it up, it says Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is, just to kind of give you a backdrop so you know who you're watching and who are they. Joe Rogan, those that may watch mixed martial arts, he's a commentator. He's been a martial artist all his life, commentating for, really early on in mixed martial arts. But one thing about him is that he's a carnivore, but he is against buying or eating meat from industry. He believes that is bad for you. So what he does, he's like an avid hunter, and all his gain is comes from hunting. He doesn't eat any meat from supermarkets, restaurants. He's against that because he doesn't believe in the industry, and it's we all know the stories, right? So that's his angle. The doctor, Chris Kresher, is a advocate of
The Joe Rogan experience.
Okay, is an advocate of we have to go back what our so-called ancestry 12,000 years ago were eating, which is anything that grew naturally, and when they began to eat meat and vegetables. But the vegetable that they got to eat is only vegetables that grow naturally. So stuff like cabbage or broccoli, they cannot eat because at that time, cabbage and broccoli, believe it or not, and carrots, but broccoli are from GMO. Hybrids, but we're going to go into that. Is it lawful for us to eat or not? We're going to go into that. So let's go into this documentary. Please pay attention. It's a lot of detail. Of course, you can get the long version. The long version is like a 2-hour interview. I recommend everybody, to watch it. Joe Rogan may curse here and there because he's not a Christian. But one thing I like about Joe Rogan's podcast is that we bring people from that he agreed with, disagree with, and just kind of have a dialogue. So I like the way he set up his podcast. So let's go. I think it's 3 minutes long. So let's see the video.
The Joe Rogan experience.
So think B12, that's a thing that came up in the film a number of times.
And
so we should talk about that a little bit because there was some actually just, factually inaccurate information about B12 that I want to correct. So the claim, this is slide 55, Jamie. James said B12 is not made by animals. It's made by bacteria that these animals consume in the soil and water. Before industrial farming, farm animals and humans could get B12 by eating traces of dirt on plant foods or by drinking water from rivers or streams. But now, because of pesticides and antibiotics and chlorine that kill the bacteria, this vitamin, even farm animals, that produces this vitamin, even farm animals have to be given B12 supplements. That's just all false. That's all just factually wrong. So first of all, B12 is made by bacteria, but animals don't get it from consuming soil and water. The B12 is made by bacteria in their gut. So in ruminants like cows, in the rumen, which is a chamber in the stomach, the bacteria convert cobalt that they get from grass that they eat into cobalamin, which is B12. And then they are foregut fermenters, so they can absorb the B12 the bacteria produce in their intestines and utilize that themselves. So primates, including humans, also have bacteria that make B12, but we're hindgut fermenters, so we cannot absorb the B12 that our own gut bacteria make. Well, that's not exactly true. Chimps and gorillas can, but that's only because they eat their own poo. So that is one potential strategy for meeting your B12 needs.
I hope you didn't just put that out there.
You can be coprophagic.
We will find ethical poo eaters. There's a whole community now of Reddit. Ethical poo eaters is now a new subreddit.
So we cannot get B12 from our own gut bacteria.
Right.
And if there is any B12 in soil, it's only from manure, that's come from animals. There's also zero evidence that B12 is fed to cattle, and there's no evidence that humans have ever been able to meet their B12 needs from just eating soil and water. If you pull up slide 56, Jamie, Jack Norris, who's a vegan dietitian, we don't agree on a lot of things, but I appreciate his rigor with the science. He has a big article on B12 on this website, and he says, the suggestion that humans have ever relied on uncleaned organic produce for vitamin B12 doesn't have any reliable evidence at this time. So I don't know where to go with that claim, because it's demonstrably false, even from the perspective of a vegan registered dietitian.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide, which is another video. But before we go to the next video, before we start the video, so basically what he was saying, one thing that the documentary was saying, is that you don't need any animal products at all to get vitamin B12. You could get it through the soil or the other ways and things of that nature. And what this doctor is saying is that actually is wrong. Vitamin B12 is bacteria. It's developed in your gut. But for some reason, what's the guy called monkeys and us and primates, thank you, cannot take benefit. Although we produce it, it doesn't stay in our body. We just poop it out and peep it out, right? So the gorillas, the way they get their vitamin B12, they eat their own crap. They don't get any vitamin B12 from eating the plants. You cannot get vitamin B12 from plant-based diet. You gotta get animal diet, which is fish, chicken, milk, eggs. These all have vitamin B12. Okay, so this is something that it was represented in the documentary that has been proven to be false or misleading. So if you want to become a vegan like myself, and now you saw this documentary, you're all pumped up, and you see it without doing the research, you may think I get enough B12, from plant-based. Right? Now, what is vitamin B12? What's the importance of vitamin B12? Everybody knows. What else? Brain function, right? Your nervous system, brain function, is basically the vitamin or the bacteria, technically, for food for your brain. If you don't take enough vitamin B12, and you will not. If you don't give enough vitamin B12 to your children, they will not develop. They will not get smart. They will not get sharp, witty, and things of that nature. And then also your nervous system, if you don't get it, and things like that. So you need it. So let's look at that for a minute. We have vitamin B12. It's in our system, but we just throw it out. We don't use it. We have to go into other animals, fish, cows, others, to get the vitamin B12 that's needed. Why did God did that? We're going to go into that. Now, there's something about vitamin B12 and oxygen. We're going to go into that in a minute. Okay, but let's watch this documentary. This is basically Chris Cursor, How to Win an Argument with a Paleo Critic, right? And this is what I mentioned about the heart disease and all that, because he believes we should eat meats and vegetables. He goes back to the paleo diet, which goes back so-called 12,000 years ago, which nobody existed. He's imagining, but let's play this game. All right, so let's. This is a thing about 3 minutes long. Let's see this.
What about the idea that diets that are high in animal protein specifically contribute to cancer? Of course, we China study this. Many of you may have seen the headline that high-protein diets are as harmful for us as cigarettes. I got about 1 million emails after that one, as you can imagine. And this one is actually a little more complicated. There may be some truth to this, and I don't think we miss the finding outright.
They have to put the mic.
There's, as usual, the devil is in the details, and if there's one person that's really good at exploring the details, it's Denise Minger. So she wrote an article about this that if you really want to geek out and go into a lot of depth, I highly recommend it. I'm just going to summarize some of the main concepts, which I've also talked about on my blog for the last several years. And so the first observation or idea was that if we increase our total protein intake, that increases levels of something called IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, which in turn promotes the growth of cancer cells. Okay? That was then later revised to the hypothesis that it's not total protein intakes that matter, but the amount of methionine that we ingest that raises IGF-1 and increases the risk of cancer. Now, methionine is an amino acid found primarily in lean proteins, so like lean meats or egg whites or skim dairy, for example. And this is what this study showed. It showed that diets that were high in methionine, which is an amino acid found in lean animal products, can increase the risk of cancer. Okay, so and the studies were well done. We can't, We're not attacking these studies in terms of their methodological errors like we often do. This was a fairly legitimate study, legitimate finding. But the question is, what if there is a way to mitigate or cancel out the potentially harmful effects of high methionine diets without restricting methionine intake? And it turns out that there is. Glycine, which is another amino acid that, unlike methionine, tends to be found in the odd bits of the animal. So the skin, the cartilage, bone, the tougher, more gelatinous cuts of meat. In bone broth, for example, things like oxtail, shanks, chuck roast, brisket, pig's feet, chicken feet, all of these more gelatinous cuts that we get when we eat from nose to tail are rich in glycine, and glycine balances out the effects of methionine. And in fact, some studies have shown that increasing glycine intake has the same life-extending, health-promoting effects as restricting methionine. And that's not even considering other supportive nutrients that help balance out methionine and complement its roles, like vitamin B6, vitamin B12, folate, vitamin A, and choline. And guess what? All of these nutrients are also found in the odd bits, like the organs and these tougher, more gelatinous cuts of meat. So if you are a paleo purist and you really want to be hardcore paleo, you need to be eating the whole animal.
So basically what he's saying is that they did studies that people that were eating cows were getting heart disease. But they found out it was a particular part of the cow, the lean part of the cow, that was producing this, what's it called, Rebecca? Patalin? What you just said, right? So, in the lean part. Now, do we have a butcher here? Anybody has the skill of a butcher? Byron, do you know this? Because you're going to be the expert in the wilderness. So we got to find out. So what he's saying is you have two carbohydrates or two natural, what's that word? Not carbohydrates. Amino acids in a cow that one is harmful for you if you only eat a certain portion of the cow, like the lean part, right? But if you eat the inner part, like he said, beef stew, broth, like, and things of that nature, it brings in the other chemical that they kind of cancel the bad chemical out. So if you're eating an egg, which it says it has the bad thing, you want to eat some beef stew. Kind of balance it out that way. If you're gonna eat meat, you gotta kind of eat meat and kind of not only stick with one area of the cow, you gotta kind of eat, balance it out a different portion. And that's where the butcher comes in. So let's just say I'm a butcher, right? Or Myra, he's a butcher, right? In the wilderness. And I come in for like a month straight. Hey, Myra, let me get that lean part of the meat. He's supposed to educate me and say, Elder, listen, you got to kind of spread it around because you could get sick. You don't spread around a little beef stew, a little broth, you want to kind of play around. And we already do that anyway. That's why some people may not even get heart disease and be eating cow because they kind of unknowingly, it's kind of like doing it on its own. So people like from Jamaica, curry, beef stew, right? Oxtail. Come on, we do that all the time, right? So we're already eating. That's why Jamaicans don't get heart disease. Don't get it in heart disease, right? But we must know that. I didn't know that. Now, but you will hear 100 reports since the beginning of time, eat too much red meat because you get heart disease. But why? Now we know why. Information is power. Okay, so it's very important because I don't want to die in the wilderness, right? So we need to know this. We need to know this information. Okay, and we cannot be information of I read somewhere because one thing about, especially in America, everything is biased. Everything is biased. So you cannot even stuff that is like Wikipedia that you think is just giving you the history. You got to check fact check and fact check and things of that nature because everything is biased, right? So I just want to kind of show this to kind of educate you guys The understanding is like, okay, when you eat meat, you have to make sure of that. Okay. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So a lot of people may say, well, Elder, don't we got to eat the lean meat and throw away everything else? And why would God tell us to do that? Does he want us to die an early death? You know, but that's not exactly what the scripture says. Let's read Exodus 12 and 9. This is dealing with the Passover lamb. We'll read it.
Eat not of it raw.
So the conversation is eating what part you're going to eat it and how you got to eat it. You cannot eat it raw. Read.
Nor sodden at all with water.
Meaning boil, like beef stew or whatever, right? Read.
But roast with fire.
But you got to eat it roasted with fire. Read.
His head with his legs.
His head with his legs. Remember, the doctor was saying that is the op bits of the cow. They kind of balance it out, right? Read.
And with the pertinence thereof.
And the pertinence thereof. Brother Garvey, is he here? Coming? Okay. I know because I misspoke and I told that you cannot eat the in parts of the animal. That's not true because the scripture says even the inward parts. Okay? And the pertinence is the inner parts of the animal. Okay? It's a strong word, H7130. Okay? Next slide. Okay. This is what you're supposed to take out of the animal, which is called the fat. Right? It's that skin that is like, once you take away the first skin, there's another skin. Okay, that with the flesh or the skin and this skin gets burned, and that is what gets sacrificed. That's the sweet savor. Okay. Also, the manure and there was something else gets sacrificed outside the camp. That is a different sacrifice. The manure is something else. Yeah, the dung of the animal, anything of it, you got to take it out, clean it out, and then you burn it outside the camp. Things like that. But we go into the scripture. Okay, so let's read Exodus 29 and 11.
Exodus chapter 29, verse 11. And thou shalt kill the bullock before the Lord by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And thou shalt take of the blood of the bullock and put it upon the horns of the altar with thy finger, and pour all the blood beside the bottom of the altar. And thou shalt take all the fat that covereth the inwards, and the caul that is above the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and burn them upon the altar.
So you're not burning the liver, you're not burning the kidneys, you're burning the fat. There's a covering them, and then that's what you burn. This is the sweet savor. This part you burn within inside the temple as a sweet savor, right? Now go down to Exodus 29 and 14, which is the next verse. In the bottom.
Verse 14. But the flesh of the bullock.
But the flesh of the bullock, read.
And his skin.
And his skin.
And his dung.
And his dung. So what skin he's talking about here? So you got the flesh is the actual body, hair, The skin is the skin of fat. This, right? No, excuse me, not this. I'm sorry. Not this. This you burn in the altar. But the skin, right? Read.
And his dung.
And the dung, read.
Shalt thou burn with fire without the camp.
Without means outside the camp. Right? Read.
It is a sin offering.
The sin offering, right? So you could eat the kidneys, you could eat the liver. These are all healthy and things. You're not allowed to eat the skin and this fat that isn't over the body. Okay? All right, so you guys understand that, right? Okay, so let's and it kind of gives you some, when you read it, it's reading like it's giving an emphasis. Make sure you eat everything, the leg, the head, the pertinence. Like, why the Most High is pointing that out? Because maybe he knew about the 2 balance, right? Maybe he knew, right? Not maybe, of course he knew, right? But he was giving us a tip. That's why when the Most High keeps a feast, or he gives a command, he's very thorough. And we may think that thoroughness is like insignificant, but he may be saving our lives who doesn't know it. You know, okay? So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so a quick history from when you hear these terms in regards, Paleolithic period and Neolithic revolution. These are all terms that you may hear if your kid's in college, or you may see a documentary or what have you. So let's go into the Wikipedia dealing with the Paleolithic period.
Paleolithic period, the earliest period of human development, lasting until approximately 8,000 BC. In Western archaeology, the Paleolithic period, or Old Stone Age, is divided into two epochs. The Lower Paleolithic, which is to 40,000 BC, and the Upper Paleolithic, 40,000 to 8,000 BC. These in turn consist of several eras or cultures. Notwithstanding some significant differences between Ukrainian and Western European Paleolithic cultures, Ukrainian archaeological studies follow this basic scheme.
So the Paleolithic period, so-called, is when we said we were running around as hunter-gatherers, cavemen, right? That's the time that they say, and things of that nature. Now, I'm doing research on what fossil they are discovering to say these are cavemen, and I believe a lot of them are actually the Horites and also the Philistines, because the Horites, the Philistines, they were more conquering warrior kingdom. It's like they would never stay, they were consumer. They would go to this town, raid it, take all the resources, go to the next town, stay there for a little bit, and then go to the next town. So their diet would show that they had more what you would call today a caveman diet, because they didn't have time to grow wheat and all that. They just hit and run. So they'll probably have a high protein diet, and they will only eat fruits that grew naturally, which they only had time to eat because they go into the next town to raid and pillage. So I'm doing research on that to see the so-called fossils that's a billion years ago, yada, 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 supposed to be, were really a few thousand years ago, right? Okay, so the next half.
The Neolithic Revolution, also called the Agricultural Revolution, marked the transition in human history from small nomadic bands of hunter-gatherers to larger agricultural settlements and early civilization.
The Bible starts this, but this is real. This is fake, this is real. So anything with this era is throughout history that could be validated. Okay, read.
Agricultural settlements and early civilization.
I don't know if this one says it. I hope it does. It started around the Mediterranean. They say that man began to farm around, does it say it? The Middle East. There you go, the Middle East. Isn't that Israel? Isn't that? So the same place where the Bible says that man started humanity and all that, the Middle East, that's what science showed, look, first farmers were here, coordinating with the Bible. So this is true, this is fake, right? So let's read.
The Neolithic Revolution started around 10,000 BC in the Fertile Crescent, a boomerang-shaped region of the Middle East where humans first took up farming.
When human first took up farming, right? Okay, so you guys get the drift, right? Okay, next slide. Okay, this the guy here that started the term Paleolithic diet in 1970s. It's a fairly new term, right? Fairly new theory. So let's read the bottom part. It says the paleo diet is promoted.
The paleo diet is promoted as a way of improving health. There is some evidence that following this diet may lead to improvements in terms of body composition and metabolic effects compared with the typical Western diet or compared with diets recommended by national nutritional guidelines.
And that is true, because if you cut enough bread and only meats and vegetables, that's it, that's your diet, you're going to lose some weight. But are you getting all your minerals? Are you getting everything else that the plant life gives you? And that's the balance you have, or other plant life. It's going to show you. It's going to show you. Read.
There is no good evidence that the diet helps with weight loss other than through the normal mechanisms of calorie restriction. Following the paleo diet can lead to nutritional deficiencies such as an inadequate calcium intake.
So, because they say that the paleo diet is when we were cavemen, we didn't know how to grow, and calcium only comes from where? Milk, eggs. But the paleolithic theory is that we didn't eat eggs and milk until we began to farm them. Because we just hunter-gatherers. It wasn't like, okay, you hold the cow, I'll grab the milk. It wasn't that. They just kill the cow and then bring it back home, kill it. It's when they domesticate the cow, they realize, when we growing these cows, the milk is coming out, and the babies, let's see how it tastes. Pretty good. A little coffee, good, right? So that's how they said, and also eggs. Eggs began to be a thing. Like, I noticed these chickens are these eggs, maybe we could eat some of them. And that's what they say, so cavemen, according to them, didn't eat eggs, didn't eat, dairy products, which calcium comes from, right? You gotta drink your milk, calcium, remember that? Right, and things of that nature, right? So, let's read.
Following the paleo diet can lead to nutritional deficiencies such as an inadequate calcium intake, and side effects can include weakness, diarrhea, and headache.
Right. So not eating calcium or having enough calcium, the mothers make sure you breastfeed your children, because that's how they're going to get the calcium. Okay. You have to make sure you take another calcium pills, or you make sure you drink almond milk and other things that brings forth calcium and so forth, things of that nature. If it's not, multivitamin, because if you don't have enough calcium and you're feeding your children, they're not going to have to. Make sure you're healthy for your child to be healthy, right? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is actually pro paleo diet website, right? Step-by-step guide to the paleo diet. So it's giving you, so let's start, I don't want to go to all of it, but let's start with what's the philosophy behind this diet.
The paleo diet involves eating only foods that were available during the Paleolithic era more than 11,000 years ago. Many people would naturally question the wisdom of taking nutritional advice from cavemen and hunter-gatherers.
Yes, I will. Go ahead.
After all, nobody's suggesting we copy other things from that period, such as using stones to create fire. However, as it turns out, the paleo diet offers potential benefits over our modern diet.
Okay, this is cited because it's a pro paleo diet website. Go to the next slide. Okay, so these are the things that you should eat as a paleo diet. Now, within the paleo diet, there's some good. Because if you go to a paleo diet website, it'll tell you this is what you should eat, and they'll show you a fish and a cow and fruits and vegetables. And then this is a non-paleo diet. They'll put like donuts and bad things of that nature, as if that's the only alternative. You could not eat a paleo diet and still be pretty healthy. So they play that game with us. But you have, and one thing that they said that it should be grass-fed, organic meat, meaning wild, meaning so they're against industrial feeding. It should just be catching the wild. Wildcat fish, catching from the wild, not control. Free-range eggs, meaning if you free-range eggs is like they grow naturally. Vegetables, and fruits, nuts, and so things of that nature. But it also say broccoli. But broccoli, according to their science, did not come in until the agricultural age. It came in about 900 years before Christ, about 2,900 years or 800 years, give or take a few hundred years, right? So why they have broccoli, okay, in their website. Go to the next slide. So this is the pros of eating a diet, weight loss. Basically, they're going to give their reason why this is superior. And these are the things that say that you should avoid. So let's read the things that you should avoid if you're eating a paleo diet.
When on the paleo diet, do your best to avoid the followings: grains, such as bread, pastas, wheat, and barley.
So no more Passover, no more feast. Get bread out of here, right? No, right? Read.
Legumes, such as beans and lentils. Dairy, and particularly low-fat dairy products. Vegetable oils, such as sunflower oil, corn oil, grapeseed oil.
And also olive oil, or more anointing, right? Brother, I got to use it with vegetable oil. We're going back to the caveman style, right? So, by definition, is an anti-scripture, anti-Bible diet. Is putting us in imagination time in history that never exists, A, and creating this caveman thing that never existed, B. So it's incomplete, right? So let's go to the next slide. Okay, these are cons. So at least this website was telling you the negative and the positive and the negative. So let's see the negative.
The arguments against the paleo diet are also part scientific, part anthropologic. On the scientific front, certain studies suggest it is not as effective in achieving weight loss as some people would believe. Other studies have shown it can lead to deficiencies in certain nutrients, such as calcium. Although it's worth pointing out that while the paleo diet excludes dairy, it does include many calcium-rich vegetables such as broccoli.
Right. So it doesn't include broccoli, although broccoli came much later. So it's like, listen, we're gonna borrow you from we're gonna borrow one food. Let me just say one food from after 12,000 years. It didn't exist. The caveman could eat, but we're gonna need that because we need calcium. So it's an imperfect diet. Why even go there? Why don't go in when go back 12,000 years when we began to eat, when we began to farm, and you have all choices. You don't have, that's really the best diet, right? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so broccoli. This is basically, showing you when broccoli started. And this is the reason why it cannot be considered a caveman diet food source, because it didn't exist during that. Read.
Broccoli, botanically known as Brassica oleracea italica, is native to the Mediterranean. It was engineered from a cabbage relative by the Etruscans.
It was engineered from cabbage by the Tristans. Who are the Tristans? Huh? Danites. Give me Etruscans. Etruscans, right? Pronouncing it right?
Etruscans. Yep.
Yeah, Etruscans. They existed. They are the society that predated the Greeks and Romans. They were there before the Greeks and Romans, and the Greeks and Romans adopted their culture. And a lot of them are to believe to either be, some say they are the original Japhites that were there. Other people say that they were us, the Danites, when we went into that area. So it's a good resources to get on the Etruscans are the book called Black Athena, value 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it goes into that Greece was actually populated before the Greeks got there by black people of color. Okay? But they invented, their society only goes back 900 BC, and then they are accredited by inventing the broccoli, and it came out of cabbage, and now the broccoli was born. So therefore, the cavemen could not have eat this because to produce broccoli comes from what? Really? Wife and daughter is not allowed to, right? Let's go to the next slide. What does cabbage, where does cabbage come from? Okay? Let's read this article. This is the source right here, dealing with the article in regards of broccoli. Let's read.
Are hybrids and GMOs unnatural? A GMO is a genetically modified biological substance that could not have possibly come about in nature. An unnatural process was used to bring together genes that were not designed to be together on the earth. They often have damaged DNA resulting from the inclusion and can have unintended and unpredictable results.
Right.
Hybrids come about by man or nature naturally breeding plants of compatible DNA.
Read that again.
Hybrids come about by man or nature naturally.
It comes by man or nature, read.
Naturally breeding plants of compatible DNA.
Of compatible DNA after its kind. So, read this, right? Let's read the whole thing. We're going to go to the next slide and we're going to go back to this. Let's read.
If the breeder tries to breed plants that are not compatible naturally, then the project fails.
See that? So it's a science to it. Read Genesis 1:11.
And the Most High said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, or after his DNA."
Or after its DNA. You get what I'm saying? After its DNA. Let the earth bring forth fruits after its DNA, and after its DNA. Read. Or after its kind. Read.
Whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so.
Meaning it could reproduce itself. Right? So, keep reading.
And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind.
After its kind. Go to the next slide. This is from a website. Here's the source here. Okay. This is broccoli here in the middle. Broccoli, kale, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. What is that thing? I can't see.
Kohlrabi?
Kohlrabi?
Kohlrabi.
That one. Okay. They all come from one plant, the wild mustard. And what they're showing here is if you want broccoli, you take the arrow, you take that portion, you bury that, you get broccoli. See the top, you get the leaf. So it tells you broccoli, you get the flower buds or the stem. You want kale, you bury the leaves. You want cauliflower, you get that. So after its kind. So what is brilliant about this? So remember when different parts of animals of the cow have different amino acids that could produce either harmful or benefits, and things that is a balance. The same thing with the plant, in the sense of you want different version of this kind. This is how you do it. So is the word hybrid is a broccoli is after the kind of a wild mustard plant. That's the proper way to say it. The same kind, same tree. It's just a different portion of a tree being buried, being born, and it's the same exact tree. It's just it grows different because you're storing different parts of the tree. It's the same thing. So we got to know this when we're in the wilderness. We got to know, okay, I want broccoli. How do we make broccoli? Instead of buying broccoli and growing broccoli only and just getting broccoli, we don't get the wild mustard plant. And then we could get broccoli, kale, all in one. This is what you call righteous shamanism. What's the word shaman? Is one who takes from the ground. It was like a doctor. It knows the ground, knows his earth. And okay, don't eat that. Don't eat this. Yeah, eat that. If you eat this, you got to eat this with it. Drink a little water with that. Position. You understand? So when you hear broccoli is GMO, go back to the previous slide. Back to the previous slide. Go back to the previous slide. Okay.
Sorry about that.
So when you hear GMO, it has a bad condescending because broccoli will be considered a GMO food. It was modified on the earth. But lot of people think it's a lab. No. Got the mustard tree, right? Wild mustard. You take certain parts. I'm going to grow kale here. Grow broccoli. Grow of the same kind. And they all could grow together because they're of the same DNA. If you take a different kind, try to bring it in, science, God, tell you, it's not of the same kind. See that? So, the beautiful thing about this is that you could take one plant, the root, and this I'm going to do it even a lesson on that because people left the church because we allowed to eat apples. People say, Elder, apples is a hybrid, isn't that? It's the same hybrid like the broccoli. I kid you not. It was a couple. They send, I think, Elder Lawya a book they wanted to, or the elders, Elder Lawya respond to them. And one of the things that we should not be eating is these GMO foods. But they're not really educated because they just get caught up in the term GMO, modifying something. And that's what you did. You modifying the wild mustard plant into another version of itself. Okay, and I didn't have time to do the research and things of that nature. Go back to the other slide. Go forward. There. I need to know the benefit, helpful benefit. Do they just have calcium and whatever vitamins, or they're different vitamins versus kale versus broccoli and things of that nature? We need to know that. We need to know that. Yeah, baby. Right. Okay. Could you just remind me that? Okay. So remember when I said that B12 cannot be produced by plants? We're gonna go into that and things that we're gonna touch on that. But we need to know that because Rebecca, you have the vitamin. Okay. So this is a plant-based B12. Matter of fact, pass me that if you don't mind. Well, maybe. So this is an organic B12 shot. Put it on your tongue, get your B12, right? And it's all plant-based. But wait a minute. If you're reading all the journals, you cannot get vitamin B12 from plants. So how is it we have a plant-based B12? So what you read the ingredients, my daughter probably is going to help me out. My wife and daughter. Okay, if you read the ingredient, it's just different plants. So what I'm assuming, and I got to do, maybe talk to a doctor, baby, remind me to talk to our doctor. What's her name? Is it dead? Not. Oh, okay, that's right. A wellness solution, that's the name of her business. All right, so we need to know this. We need to know which vitamin. They'll have the same vitamin, that this has a richer vitamin, and that we need to know that. Okay, that's important. All right. So, and in a nutshell, when we read the ingredients, they were all different plants. So I'm assuming that you put all these plants, and then you will produce B12. But not one plant has B12. I was arguing with a friend of mine who's a vegan, and things of that nature. He was like, no, you could get B12 from plant-based. And I think all we found, there's a low level of B12 in seaweed. Okay, all right. I help me either. But good try. Thank you, sir. All right. So what I'm saying is that we got to do these research, okay? So, but to kind of give you, and the same thing is the apple, and I'm going to give you, I think maybe not next week, but in the near future, that which plants that we eat every day, like the broccoli, the kale, cabbage, like apple, these are all after its kind. The original plant tree doesn't look like an apple tree, but you could take certain spank and create an apple. Okay? All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay. let's take a closer look at vitamin B12, right? We went into what does it go for? But this is what the industry is saying about vitamin B12. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is from the National Institute of Health. This is like a government website. You could get it. This is basically the mainstream. I'm not promoting this or speaking against it. This is what the scientific world is saying about vitamin B12, okay? And if it's true, it's very important. We should definitely make sure we have some vitamin B12 in the wilderness. Let's read.
What is vitamin B12 and what does it do? Vitamin B12 is a nutrient that helps keep the body's nerves and blood cells healthy and helps make DNA, the genetic material in all cells.
Makes DNA. Important. Read.
Vitamin B12 also helps prevent a type of anemia called megaloblastic anemia that makes people tired and weak. 2 steps are required for the body to absorb vitamin B12 from food.
So vitamin B12, like the brother said about energy, vitamin B12 doesn't give you energy, but it causes you not to get tired. So if you don't take it or enough of it, you'll get tired. So for you to be normal, you should take a decent dose of it. Okay, let's read.
First, hydrochloric acid in the stomach separates vitamin B12 from the protein to which vitamin B12 is attached in food. After this, vitamin B12 combines with a protein made by the stomach called intrinsic factor and is absorbed by the body. Some people have pernicious anemia, a condition in which they cannot make intrinsic factor. As a result, they have trouble absorbing vitamin B12 from all foods and dietary supplements.
So then we have to know that the wilderness, somebody cannot consume. How other ways they could get vitamin B12 nature, right? So let's read.
How much vitamin B12 do I need? The amount of vitamin B12 you need each day depends on your age.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. And this is basically a chart, okay, and what is recommended depending on your age and your sex and your time. From birth to 6 months, you need 0.4 grams. Infant from 7 to 12 months, 5 grams. 1 to 3, 9 grams. 4 to 8, 1.2. 9 to 13, 1.8. Teens, 14 to 18, 2.4. Adults, 2.4. Pregnant teens and mothers and women need 0.6, 2.6. And breastfeeding teens and mother need 2.8. So this is important when you're breastfeeding. You need this and things of that nature. Okay, so this is like the daily dose. Okay, so it makes you smarter, or not smarter, but sharper, or it allows you to go into your full potential in regard to your brain function, your nervous function. It helps you build blood cells and also DNA, right? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so these are what they're saying is you could find DNA and what you should be eating to be eating DNA. So let's read. To be eating food that is rich on B12. Let's read.
What foods provide vitamin B12? Vitamin B12 is found naturally in a wide variety of animal foods and is added to some fortified foods. Plant foods have no vitamin B12 unless they are fortified.
Plant foods have no vitamin B12 unless they are fortified. What's the word fortify means? Added. You insert it into the plant food. Okay? So keep reading.
You can get recommended amounts of vitamin B12 by eating a variety of foods, including the following. Beef liver.
Beef liver, right? Liver, right? That's read.
Which are the best sources of vitamin B12.
Okay, not clams, but that's unlawful, right? Also mentioned there. Fish, right? Read.
Fish, meat, poultry, eggs, milk, and other dairy products, which also contain vitamin B12. Some breakfast cereals, nutritional yeast, and other food products that are fortified with vitamin B12.
So you haven't seen, you got an orange juice with vitamin B12. You got cereal, vitamin B12. They were fortified. They were added. It doesn't come naturally. Okay, so that's very important. But one of the best ways is to get nutritional yeast. Have you ever heard of that, nutritional yeast? That's the best way to get vitamin 12. So you get that if you want to go, if you don't want to eat meat. And make sure you have, alternated with those other things. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is another website. Now, this is a pharmaceutical website promoting a vitamin B12 thing. It's funny because on the next page, and I forgot to add, I should have added because I was laughing while I was reading it. It was giving you the side effects of this vitamin B12. So you have to make sure that if you're gonna take multivitamins, make sure there's some side effects. This one has some side effects, but this is basically on the website, and it kind of reiterating what is really understood. So these are the people that are risk for vitamin B12 deficiency, but there's stuff on top.
Why vitamin B12 is important. Vitamin B12 is an essential vitamin. Everyone needs it to stay healthy. Vitamin B12 helps your body work properly. It protects your nerve cells so they can grow the right way. Vitamin B12 also helps make red blood cells, which give oxygen to the tissues in your body.
Which you give oxygen to the tissue of your body. Very important. Okay, oxygen. So, I'm going to hold that. Go back. Okay, so let's continue reading.
There are many causes for vitamin B12 deficiency. Celiac disease, heavy drinking, strict vegetarian or vegan diet.
So these are the people that are at risk with low vitamin B12. People that are heavy drinkers. People that are strict vegetarian and vegan diet. Only going to eat greens. You're getting no vitamin B12. Okay? Read.
Long-term use of certain medications such as metformin and proton pump inhibitors.
Okay.
Immune system disorders, HIV infection, Crohn's disease, atrophic gastritis, gastric surgery, and hypothyroidism.
Right. So if you are having any of these illnesses or lifestyle, make sure that you have a supplement that gives you're able to get enough of B12 because it's like the food for your brain, right? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so these are foods you could eat if you don't want to eat meat to get your vitamin B12. Get it to fortify cereal, unsweetened soy milk, low-fat milk, Swiss cheese, eggs, fortified juice, fortified tofu. What is that? Soy, okay. Low-fat yogurt, vitamin water, and whey powder. But what's the whey powder come from? Whey? Wheat? And where does it come from? Cow? Yeah. So if you don't want to eat it, you get a multivitamin pill. Make sure it doesn't have any bad side effects, or it's organic, it's natural bread. Okay, but you need your vitamin B12 is important, right? So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the Paleolithic age, fake. This is the Neolithic age, which is more, this is more in line with biblical timeline after the flood. That's very important, not before. Okay, this is more when we would say, okay, we were hunter-gatherers. Okay, they just probably took over an area. They just consuming the resources because hunter-gatherers have to constantly be moving. Why? Who they following? Who they chasing around? The animals. You got to follow where the animals are going. You understand? So it took man 40,000 years to figure out, we could get like a little cage, put this animal in here and breed them. We know they get breed and have born, little calves, right? It took them, according to biblical time, we knew that from day one, all right? So to kind of give you a realistic, this is real and this is fake. So, they're having our colors. These are the original Gathering Christ Church members. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay. These are scriptures proving that man knew from day one the ability to tilt the ground. So in Genesis chapter 1, the knowledge of us tilting the ground existed after the fall. So we're going to go into that. Oh, Garvey, I'm glad you're here. Okay, because we had a discussion about the parts of the inner parts of the animal that you could eat inside. Yes, you could eat. The only thing you cannot eat is that fat piece. You got to throw that out. Everything else, the kidney, the liver, all that's good. But you mentioned there was one part that was toxic. Which part was of the gallbladder? Stay away from the gallbladder because it's bad. All right, things of that nature. All right, so let's go into book of Genesis chapter 2, verse 5. Now, we have to pay attention when this read because I just picked this up, when I read this week, I was like, okay, I read this 1,000 times, but I didn't, now I'm picking something new up, right? So let's read it.
Genesis chapter 2, verse 5. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the Most High Power had not caused it to rain upon the earth. And there was not a man to till the ground.
So there was not a man to till the ground. So Genesis chapter 2 is going into a much detailed description of Genesis chapter 1. Okay? So Genesis 1, Genesis 2 is the same story, just retelling again. Genesis 2 is more detailed. Okay? So, keep reading.
Verse 6. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground.
So, what Genesis chapter 2 is giving us the how God solved this problem. How the fruits came out the ground with a mountain tilting the ground. And there was no rain they came yet. What the scripture is saying is that he allowed a musk to come off the ground to water the plant to allow the plant to come out by itself. Because a plant needs what? And what else? Sunlight and what else? Soil. That's it. You already had the sun. You have the dirt. Where's the water? The Most High. So because there was not a man to put water on it, right? He said, I have to create a scenario that this grows by itself, and that's what he did. He allowed mist to come off the ground. And you can still see that in certain areas of the world, a napkin that still comes off the ground. Right? Okay. So keep reading.
Verse 7. And the Most High Power formed man out of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Most High Power planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Most High Power to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life
but
also...
that these fruits came naturally. Meaning, at this time, Adam was probably eating what the world call a natural green diet. Strict vegan. Because everything was growing naturally. There was no cabbage, no broccoli at that time. There was only the wild mustard plant. Came much later. Okay? So there's more food now that's available to us. There wasn't available at the time. And even Noah. Right? When did Adam begin to tilt the ground? Because the reason why I said there was no man to tilt the ground, he didn't create Adam to tilt the ground. He was telling you how did God fix the problem to have plants and fruits for Adam without a man tilting the ground. So Adam just got up, be like, oh, I want to eat today. Oh, let me just grab this. He's good. Right? Now, well, Elder, how can Adam only eat an apple? Don't you need protein and vitamin B12 and calcium, right? Remember, post-flood, pre-flood. What was different between pre-flood and post-flood in regards of our genetic makeup? We're going to do that a little bit today. But when did Adam begin to first tilt the ground? So let's go to, in the book of Adam and Eve. I want to take my daughter, Rebecca, who pointed out to me. So I want to put this here, right? So Adam and Eve, chapter 22, verse 1 and 2.
And Adam carried Eve and the boy and led them to the east.
This was when they had the firstborn Cain, baby, right? Read.
And the Most High Power sent diverse seeds by Michael.
This is after the fall. This is after the fall. So remember, Adam got kicked out the garden. He's had a firstborn baby. If you read the Adam and Eve story, it's a horrific experience. He's scared, they're cold, they're experiencing things they never experienced before, right? Because they had it everything. It was probably like a nice 72 degrees all throughout the year in the Garden of Eden. You know? Maybe he was in the mood, and go up a little higher, you know, whatever, nice little, right? But now it's crazy heat, crazy storms, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So read 2 again.
And the Most High Power sent diverse seeds by Michael, the archangel, and gave to Adam and showed him how to work until the ground.
And showed him how to work until the ground. My theory, that's when cabbage was. Broccoli. Okay, Adam, you take wild mustard plant, you could create this, that, and the other. That's how you do it. It has to be up to its kind. He taught them agriculture. Michael taught Adam agriculture. He didn't know it. Why? Because he didn't need to know it. In the garden, because everything grew naturally. He was on the fuller stage. You guys understand that? Okay, that's it. Read the rest of that.
That they might have fruit by which they and all their generations might live.
Right. So this is knowledge. Remember, at this time, they're still vegan. Right? We're still living 900 years. Adam lived 930 years, right? 70 years short, 1,000 years. Remember, in this day you will die. The day that you eat this fruit, on this day, it meant 1,000 years, right? So this is how man got the knowledge to tilt the ground. Not hunter-gatherers running around, stumbling into something and figure. No, God gave us the knowledge to become what's that? What's the other industrial? The agricultural revolution happened here. This is the beginning of the agricultural evolution. Prior to that, it was the Garden of Eden. You understand? Okay. So this is the demonic thing about that. What they're saying is our forefather Adam, during the time he was living, he was a caveman. You understand? He was a Neanderthal guy hanging out in trees, eating leaves all day. Now, he was in a greater form and he came down. So the agricultural revolution is actually a step down from humanity. It's not a step up. People credit it, that's when we got smarter and better. No. Adam was smarter. Adam was better before the fall. This is a step down. So, eating meat. Remember, eating meat came in later. It's not our natural state of being. It's a sign of our curse. This is my theory. I'm going to go into the next slide. Why? In what way? Right? So we all know the story. Genesis 1:1. Eat, right? All the food. Genesis 9, after the flood. Okay? Let's read Genesis 9 and we read Isaiah 11, right?
Genesis chapter 9, verse 2. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. Verse 4. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man.
So in Genesis 9 is another decrease. But we didn't have to eat animal. to survive, like to get vitamin B12. So the question is, let me just throw in a theory. This is not a doctrine. Was the vitamin B12 that we produce by our bacteria in our gut that we cannot use, we just poop out? Did that time God change the mechanism within Adam to be able to produce its own vitamin B12? That he doesn't need to go to animal? And look at what part of the animal you have to go get your B12. At the lean meat, put it in the liver, put it in deep in the gut. So now for us to get something that grew naturally that we're pooping out, we have to go and then let me get that part of to get that vitamin B12. That is not in our glory. That is our diminished. Understand that? So when you have atheists be like, well, if God was so great, wasn't he not smart enough to have the ability for you to produce your own vitamin B12? You produce it, you just cannot eat it. Or you could eat it if you eat your own poop, ha ha ha. Right? Adam was not eating animals. You take them back to the beginning. Us eating flesh, remember when Adam first pooped, right? He was like shocked. He was like, what is this thing coming on my body? I have become like the beasts of the world. So eating meat is a curse. Oh, you don't want to obey me? Now you're going to be like those cattle. Now you're going to be like that lesser form of life that I created to serve you. Now you're going to be like them. Now let me get this fish. Now you're going to be, get what I'm saying? That's not our natural state of being. That's not how we were supposed to be. So we get caught up with the cattle and all that and farmer. Oh, yeah, brothers, we were farming from ancient. Yeah, but what ancient? When that first happened? When we fell. Yeah, right? So in the kingdom, 11 and 5, Isaiah, let's read it. Isaiah 11 and 5.
Isaiah chapter 11, verse 5. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed, the young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox.
So everybody's going back to what? Veganism. Strict vegan diet. So the veganists, that's not even a word, they're eating a diet that wasn't meant for our falling state. It was only designed, we were Adams. You get what I'm saying? We're not Adams now. We're the falling Adams. We're the falling of man. So we can't produce this diet or this diet in this stage. You guys understand that? Brother, that's the natural, original. Yeah, but right now I can't produce my own vitamin B12, brother. That's a curse. I can't take advantage of something with my body produced naturally? Huh? What? A curse. That's a sick joke. Yeah, put the vitamin B12. Be like, my B12, man. Don't need that B12, right? The curse. Everybody to your B12. That's not how we're supposed to be. Curse. So we start looking and researching our biological makeup and try to figure out what's the way of what to eat and all that. We have to understand we're in the middle between these two stages. This is not our natural stage. You guys understand that? So we can't apply this diet, in this condition. Because we can't get our B12 or our calcium getting this. Right. Exactly. So we have to do both. Okay? You don't want to eat any meat? Get a supplement. Do the research. Make sure there's no, side effect. I'm with you. I'll pray for you. Do it together. But understand this is not a rest. This is not the way it's supposed to be, right? This is temporary. Okay, yes. Oh, your question? Okay, next slide. The question is why? Why is it the Most High did this? Right? This is my theory. Let's go to remember about B12 and oxygen? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is a website called genesispark.com. This is a scientific Christian website to kind of defend you, equip you with scientific data to help you debate an atheist or someone who is like against the Bible, right? So let's start at pre-flood, right? Let's read it.
The pre-flood atmosphere. Another interesting feature of the early Earth atmosphere was enhanced oxygen.
What?
Enhanced oxygen.
So if vitamin B12 helps you to give oxygen to your nerves and your body, remember, you need to have oxygen, right? And you have a greater quality of oxygen, and you have, let's just say you have the ability to produce vitamin B12 and use it, or use the vitamin B12 that you'll be able to use, you'll be a Superman. You'll live much longer, much healthier, right? Read.
The analysis of microscopic air bubbles trapped in fossilized tree resin gave Robert Berner of Yale and Gary Landis of the U.S. Geological Survey a glimpse into the ancient past. The researchers clamped the amber into a vacuum chamber of a quadruple mass spectrometer, a device that identifies the chemical composition of a substance. As the machine slowly crushed the sample, the microscopic bubbles were released, exhaling up to 100 billion molecules. These breaths disclosed some surprising evidence. The ancient air contained 50% more oxygen than the air today. Landis believes that the reduction in oxygen could have led to the dinosaurs' demise.
All right, let's go to the next slide. Then website, folks, keep your voice down. Okay, keep reading.
In October 2006, Science Daily publicized a study led by Arizona State University staff entitled, "Giant Insects Might Reign If Only There Was More Oxygen in the Air." The article claims the delicate ladybug in your garden could be frighteningly large if only there was a greater concentration of oxygen in the air. A new study concludes. The study adds support to the theory that some insects were much larger during the late Paleozoic period because they had a much richer oxygen supply, said the study's lead author, Alexander Kaiser. The Paleozoic period was a time of huge and abundant plant life and
remember the
Paleozoic
period? That's the time when we said we were cavemen. But evidence show that we had more oxygen. We were bigger. We were stronger. So we were not as stupid and dumb and caveman-ish as they claim, because all the evidence pointed we were superior beings. And they had to be 12, exactly. So this is an amber. An amber is like a fossilized insect that was found like in some form of a bubble with water. And they examine the water and everything else, the air, the bubble, and they say, okay, this is superior than what we had today, right? So this is the definition about it. You just keep reading.
The Paleozoic period was a time of huge and abundant plant life and rather large insects. Dragonflies had 2.5-foot wingspans, for example. The air's oxygen content was 35% during this period, compared to the 21% we breathe now, Kaiser said. This research concurs with the biblical model of the early earth.
Read that again.
This research concurs with the biblical model of the early earth.
And there was giants in those days. How can the earth host these giants? The oxygen was in the right aptitude, right? Keep reading.
In 2010, researchers at Arizona State University presented the results of experiments raising insects in various levels of atmospheric oxygen.
They raised insects in various levels of oxygen. Guess what happened? Read.
10 out of 12 varieties of insects studied decreased in the size with lower oxygen.
They got bigger. I mean, so it's smaller with lower oxygen. So they prove you could get smaller if you take away oxygen. Why do you think people in Peru, high altitude, usually are small? That's oxygen. They have to literally take coca leaf to it to give them energy to be able to, to actually live in that environment. They use it. So your environment does affect your biological, okay, to some degree. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, remember he says this goes with the biblical narrative. 2 Ezra chapter 5, verse
2 Ezra chapter 5, verse 51. He replied to me, ask a woman who bears children, and she will tell you. Say to her, why are those whom you have borne recently not like those whom you bore before, but smaller in stature? And she herself will answer you, those born in the strength of youth are different from those born during the time of old age, when the womb is failing. Therefore, you also should consider that you and your contemporaries are smaller in stature than those who were before you. And those who come after you will be smaller than you, as born of a creation which already is aging and passing the strength of youth. And
let me tell you how racist science is. They will say, well, the life expectancy was much shorter. We were shorter. But they are following the European, British lifestyle and using that ancestry makeup. So whatever happened to white people happened to all of us. Man, we were smaller. No, the white man was smaller back then. You go to Africa, you still have those giants that were then, that towered these British dudes. You understand what I'm saying? So they're always looking at it from a European perspective. So you have to be very careful when you're reading these articles about we was much smaller. Or Elder, I read we was much smaller in science. You know what I'm saying? It's and these days they're still finding in the Middle East, fossils of, big giant fossils, 12 feet, 11 feet, and things of that nature. But you read a typical high school journal, a book our kids are reading, the life expectancy, 35. Your life expectancy. How? The Native Americans were fine before you got here and gave them smallpox. Living 110, 100, it's well recorded. With the Native Americans, when you go to Africa, or even South Africa, you got these, people living there a long time. White men's life expectancy, not everybody. That has to be asserted, right? So let's go to the next slide. Okay. The Industrial Revolution. This is a food website, okay, and this is an article dealing with what were people eating in the Industrial Revolution, but also what changed in the Industrial Revolution. So let's read real quick. This is food and pop culture, 13 foods people shown down on during the Industrial Revolution. Let's read it.
When most people think of the Industrial Revolution, images of bustling textile and iron factories come to mind. This period set the tone for mass production as we know it. But have you ever thought about its impact on food? From our dietary patterns to the rise of packaged products, the Industrial Revolution significantly changed the way we eat. For example, lunch breaks stem from the lifestyle and schedule of factory workers. The Industrial Revolution, which took place from 1760 to 1840, started in Great Britain. By 1780, the United States jumped on board.
So the Industrial Revolution started in Britain or England 1760 until 1840, but it started in America a little later, 1780. So the Americans said, oh, let's see what our British brothers are doing in England. Let's start copying that, right? Because America is a child of England, France, and Spain, right? Let's read.
Before this time, folks typically came home to eat a midday meal. But as mass production flourished, people began working in factories far from home. This meant they had to pack lunch or buy food from a nearby vendor. Workers also began eating an early meal before going to work, resulting in the tradition of breakfast that we know and love today.
Okay, next slide. Very important.
While these eating patterns still live on, the actual food has obviously changed since then. People ate relatively simple meals. They were limited to the fruits and veggies from nearby areas, since the practice of importing foods was only just starting to improve. Refrigeration and transportation developed during the Industrial Revolution too. Despite the progress of this period, food shortages were a major problem. That's because people were leaving their farms to work at factories.
Read that again.
That's because people were leaving their farms to work at factories.
Read from on top, the second paragraph.
Despite the progress of this period, food shortages were a major problem.
Yeah, food shortage became a major problem because all the farmers were in the factories. So nobody was growing something. So when you hear stuff, and there was a short footage in Europe, it wasn't necessarily because the food was not growing, all was still in the ground. It's because the Industrial Revolution began to change that. Read.
That's because people were leaving their farms to work at factories.
Because people were leaving their farm to work at factories. Factories were not, that's why there was a food shortage, right? Okay, next slide. Okay, so where were we when we fell, okay? So we have to come back to our roots. Our forefathers were shepherds and proud of it. We have to understand that there is power in that. You control your food source, control your food source, you control the destiny. You don't have to wait on anybody to survive. You got that knowledge. No one can take that away from you. So let's go to Genesis 46, and 31.
And Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, I will go up and shew Pharaoh, and say unto him, my brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade have been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, what is your occupation? That ye shall say, thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and also our fathers.
Feed cattle, and you're a shepherd. Look at the business industry you could produce. Meat, milk, leather shoes, leather jackets. What else? What else? Belts. Clothes, and things of that nature. Farming is a very valuable tool that was taken away from us, and now we lost that. Now we're stuck in these cities being industrial factory workers, right? Neglecting our farm data. We have to get that data back. It took away our daily sacrifice. Get it? Our daily sacrifice was important. It's our food source. It was our infrastructure in regards of us to get our not only feed ourselves, but also support our family. So let's go to the next stage. Next slide. Okay, so let's read the conclusion.
So my brothers and sisters, we Israelites in the diaspora must understand that this is not our rest. We must do research in whatever society we are under until the coming of our Lord. We must examine the food source and the environment we are in to see if it's culture for us to live in.
Exactly. In America, very closely, very, soon, it doesn't matter whether you're a vegan or a carnivore or a vegetarian, all the food is going to be defiled. What is that? The guy who did Terminator, Cameron, what is it? That guy. If he is successful and he wants to have the largest vegetarian protein source, that you could get your protein from vegetarians, get your burgers and your hot dogs and all veggie stuff, if he becomes the largest one and he becomes very powerful, he could become another, what's that other, Monsanto, what is that company? Monsanto, for the vegan industry. So now you are Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan are going to be controlling your food source. So they're behind us. They're partnering up with this guy to create this largest in life company that's going to be feeding. They're looking, and they call the documentary The Game Changer because they want to change the game and how we get fed. Do you want to put your life on them? You want to put your life stores in a, German and a Japanese or Chinese, Jackie Chan, I don't know what is he. I don't want to offend him, but, right? Or you want to control your own destiny. Eventually we have to control our own destiny, right? So, Romans 14 and 2, we know the scripture, do not judge each other, those that eat herbs, and those that eat herbs, those that don't eat herbs, don't judge each other because the Most High has received them. But in this time, we can't look at each other. If someone is eating vegan, strict vegetarian, whatever diet they want to go, listen, I'm looking into changing my diet. Like I said, I got hit with a horrible disease 7 years ago called 40. It's been hurting me ever since, right? So I'm trying to reverse these ills, as much as possible. So I'm doing research, but do your research. There's a lot of, sometimes people come up and say, well, I heard, is it the sun? Is it the energy? Is it, you just throw it, and if you go with that, people would think, okay, you're getting vitamin B12 from the sun or drinking water or something, and things. And that's where the whole backlash from people that are speaking against the documentary. They gave the impression that you could receive vitamin B12 from like the earth and natural way, and no respectful scientific person will agree to that, right? Okay, so let's go to the next. So it says, whatever direction you want to go, whether it be vegan, vegetarian, or eating cattle, we must be fully informed. You got to be fully informed. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we in the book of the Apocrypha, chapter 38, verse 1. Read.
Honor a physician with the honor due unto him for the uses which ye may have of him.
Yeah, so I haven't seen a doctor. Babe, when was the last time? Yeah, we saw a doctor for the first time. I took my blood work, literally 25 years. No surgery. No, that's a lie, because when I used to be a fighter, they used to take my blood for make sure everything is good. But my last fight was maybe 11, 12 years ago. I was 34, 35, right? So do the math, I'm 47, so that's a long time, right? So, but it wasn't because, I wanted to. I had to, because I got to fight this guy, right? So I want to get paid. So, but go to the doctor and say, hey, doc, check me out, what's wrong with me, and things of that nature. And then I recommend this doctor. She is a holistic doctor. She's not too far from here. She has two offices, one in Harlem and one in the Bronx. It's called Wellness Solution. And the address is 436 East 149th Street. The Opera House Hotel in the Bronx? Okay, it's right next door. Okay, so it's a good, and I like her because, she got all these multivitamins and stuff like that. And I said, I want to get a multivitamin for me. Doc, what do you recommend? He said, you know what, let me wait and get your blood work back. Test first before what I recommend, because I need to know the data first. So that's showing me, okay, she's just looking to make a buck, right? Another thing, and I highlight the word blood earlier, I'm going to treat maybe, is because I'm going to probably do a lesson next week or the week after that, the importance of checking your blood. Your life is in the blood. So the technology of finding out what's wrong with you in the blood, they have, in the last 10 years, they have gone great deal stride. So check your blood every so often, maybe once a year, and just basically, because a lot of people, get afraid like myself. Mr. Rodriguez, you got 3 triple cancer, colon, all kinds of, right? And I get that. I understand, you don't want to hear bad news. But Most people, when they get their blood work, they're going to say, hey, you're low on iron, you're low on this, you're low on vitamin B12. So it's preventive medicine, because if you're low on something, you adjust your diet, and you're okay. You go back, they check your blood again. Hey, Mr. Rodriguez, see you're doing better. And then you could kind of get that, essential understanding in regards of, making sure you're getting all your vitamins and nutrients. We must get our vitamin nutrient, because of the majority of illnesses and sickness we get from not having enough vitamin this or no vitamin that. Like, for instance, I asked her, I said, doctor, I get skin coloration in the summer a lot, like different tones of my skin. Where'd that come from? Oh, that's your liver. You have to clean your liver. I didn't know that. So I gotta clean my liver. Things like that. So hopefully by next year in the summer, I'll have a nice glow, fair tone, for my wife, right? So all that is important. But if you do your own research online, you're gonna get 15 different answers. Try to get a professional, and if you don't like the answer, try to get a second opinion. But that's a factor, right? But it takes money, because I had to pay cash. It's not covered by insurance, but the blood test is covered by insurance. There's certain things that are covered by insurance that I don't have insurance, but my wife has, and things of that nature. But there's certain things that is covered by insurance, but not all. Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. So what we also did, we did the IV when they pump in vitamins in you, like vitamin B12 and different vitamins. You just sit there, they put the needle, you hang around. Once it empties out, you're out of it, makes you feel good, and things of that nature. I slept for 2 hours last night. That's my wife. I was up 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, but I'm saying I usually feel lethargic. I feel like I felt like I slept 8 hours. And of course, it's gonna wear off after a few weeks, but you always get that energy booster. Okay? So it's important to do that. And it was a pretty penny, cost us what, $200? So, you want to save your your money, but it's good to have and things of that nature, information. Okay, so let's read. So respect the physician, because the physician has value. Let's read it.
Honor a physician with the honor due unto him, for the uses which he may have of him. For the Most High hath created him. Verse 2. For of the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the king. The skill of the physician shall lift up his head, and in the sight of great men he shall be in admiration. The Most High hath created medicines out of the earth.
And what is medicine? Isn't medicine modified food? Don't take the kale, take the broccoli. Take this, don't take that. You got to grow it this way, you got to do it that way. That's shamanism, right? Read.
Middle of verse 4.
A butcher is a shaman. He knows what to cut, how to cut. Don't eat that. That's toxic. This is good. Or you got to eat this because you'll get heart disease. That's preventive medicine. That's stuff that will prevent you from getting sicker in the future. Read.
And he that is wise will not abhor him. Was not the water made sweet with wood, that the virtue thereof might be known? And he hath given men skill, that he might be honored in his marvelous works.
So when it says, was not the water made sweet with wood? There is a way to sweeten wood, sweeten water with wood. Isn't that modified water? Isn't that water that we're going to processed water? What is water sweet? What is it? Oh, it's a special type of wood. You got to put it in. That modified. GMO, that's processed. Okay. It's called medicine. Righteous medicine and not so right. Right? So let's read.
Verse 7. With such doth he heal men, and taketh away their pains. Of such doth the apothecary make a confection, and of his works there is no end, and from him is peace over all the earth. My son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Most High, and he will make thee whole.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what's better? You decide. up to you. Not up to me, not doctrine. This is more knowledge, things of that nature. And we wanna, because we're gonna, we have G.O.C.C. TV, is it G.O.C.C. TV, I think, channel that Elder Rawchaa established. Media, G.O.C.C. Media, that's it. And he kind of appointed me to kind of be the health person, marshal, the physical fitness situation. So, brother Marcel, some of the brothers here, I'm gonna need you guys' help. And with that, but this kind of inspired me with that as well, because it's not only going to do physical fitness, but we have to find out, what's a proper way to eat. Also, the doctor that treated me, and she's going to come here, I think March, expecting a baby. So she said, after March, we're going to do a quick workshop. You educate us and what to do it, how to do it, and you get it from a doctor's mouth, not something read or I read in the internet, right? So it's very important. Okay, next slide. Okay, so let's close.
So in closing, my brothers and sisters, on this feast of dedication, please let's continue to dedicate our mind, body, and soul to the Most High by making sure it's in perfect health, especially in these trying times.
Romans 12.
Verse 1. I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto the Most High, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.
Okay, next slide. Okay, shalom. May the Most High bless you. Any questions? All right, so we got your hands here real quick before we start the feast. What time is it? Okay, 6 o'clock on the dot. Mamma mia. Okay, all praises. Any questions? We got your hands up here. Anybody has
Shalom and Barakathon.
Maybe, Andrew, you got to take this mic back. Mike, is this it right here? No? You unplugged it? Okay. Okay. All right. Andrew, I think she had her hand up right here. Yep.
Sorry.
Like, you just passed me.
Yes, Elder, did you touch on seedless?
Shemai, folks.
Food without seeds, like the fruits, and there's a lot of that on the market.
Yeah, I got to do more research on that and things of that nature. But yeah, every food that you're supposed to have, got to have a seed. But there's arguments like about bananas, because banana, you take the stump of the end and you bury that, I think, and that's where we produce bananas. So like, does it have a seed? Is that a seed? But it used to have seeds. I remember that too.
According to Dr. CB, the burro banana.
Right.
Is it?
Right.
And the big ones?
Right.
You can see the little seeds in them.
Yeah. So like I said, this is more fact finding. We're gonna probably eat some unrighteous GMO food until we up out of here, like maybe a banana. But do your research, find out where your food is coming from, and try to do your best with your budget. Sir, yes, ma'am. Okay. Anybody else? Here, maybe Andrell, you pass the mic. You're doing like 3 different jobs. Mic passer, right here. Mic runner.
Water. Shalom, Elder Gabar.
Shalom.
My question is about liver. With the amount of blood in liver, or the blood being left behind by the red blood cells, how do we prepare the liver, I guess? It has blood in it.
It has blood in it. Garvey, you want to take the liver and blood in the liver? How can we remove the blood? It's against the laws for us to eat blood. Is there a way for us to eat liver without the blood? And I guess we could pass the mic to Garvey. Because I don't know. That's a good question.
And for as far as I know, when you removing the liver, as long as you remove that vein from that's connected going down with the gallbladder, and you take that part of the liver and then you just clean it like any, because it's an organ by itself.
Okay.
So because it manufactures blood supply, but it doesn't mean that it's toxic within that. Remove the toxins as well as like the kidneys, they do that part. So as long as you remove that, the vein in itself, and then you clean it like any other part of the meat, okay. And make sure it's well cooked.
And it's well cooked.
Yeah.
When we cooked the 2 turkeys in the tabernacle, right? I ate some of it. Was delicious, first of all.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't get
who
any.
ate some of it? Right? Like a crazy meat. Like, it's like insane, right? We cooked the liver. Did you guys did the liver, or you just left that part alone?
No, because you was checking it out, we didn't eat it for that sake. But
okay, I'm just curious. So maybe next year we could take that task and we could learn together.
Most High willing, we plan to do a lamb. So we'll see.
I don't know. Lamb. I'll do it. I'll cut it. I don't know. He's like a turkey. They're the turkeys. Any other questions? Yep, in the back.
Hello, love the lesson, a really good lesson. I'm guessing that when we get translated and, go up to the by and by, we're not going to be eating food, period, right?
When we doing what again?
When we get translated, like when Christ comes back after the...
let's try to make it to find out what happens, because, we ate angel food. So do angels eat food? I think so, if it's called angel food, manna. A lot of the temple was mimicked like what is the real temple, and the temple had palm trees, had lilies, and things, and it is a representation of the real temple in the heaven. So that means, is there lilies and plants in heaven, as above, so below? Let's try to make it find out ourselves. Good question. I think so, but I don't know.
One more. During the 1,000-year reign, when Christ comes back, and if we make it there, I know there's a debate that we are going to be eating meat, but, we're going to still have like factory farms, we're going to have zoos where, animals are mistreated and stuff like that. What do you think it's going to be like when
All right, so that's a good question, because clearly Isaiah 11 is specifically addressing Christ. Starts with a stem of Jesse, a root of Jesse will come and will save us and rule the world, and when he is lifted up, there will be peace on earth. The lion will sit down with the lamb, the bear with the, so forth, so on, the ox and so forth. So it looks, is that 1,000 years, are we going to be eating lamb and things of that nature? That's a good question. Now, somebody wrote this question to me, which is interesting. It said, well, Elder, it mentions that the animals are not going to be eating each other, but it never said anything about us eating the animals. So, that's a good question. I assume we're going to go back, because that's what the impression is giving. You understand? And clearly, Adam in the beginning was not eating plants, and we're going to surpass Adam. It doesn't make any sense to me. We're going to go still eating animals, or at least need to. Maybe we want to. I don't know. A good question. Maybe we get manna food. We're not. That's a real good question. Real good question. Yes, sister. Sister in the front. Babe, I'll get that for you, because it's Desiree's doctor who dragged me to the office and get that. I'll get it for you. But we got to sit down and talk, because I want to start this, sister. I want to take you to the doctor, because I want to. There's a plan. I think you'll be good. I want to take you. Go to her. Yep.
Shalom, family.
Shalom.
When I grew up in Jamaica, we were never sick. And one of the things that we used to take every day was oil. When we take oil in our body, nothing can grow in our body. We never heard of cancer. We never heard of any of those sickness until we stopped taking oil.
Right. And that's why the paleo diet is really of Satan, because the caveman was not eating oil at that time. So, it eliminates even those beautiful, healthy attributes with oils, olive oil and different oils. So, yes, ma'am, obviously, that's something we have to start going back into. Preventing medicine. We only go to the doctor when we're sick. Because the only reason why I even went to the doctor is because I'm going to these jiu-jitsu classes and these white belts are kicking my butt. Like, Lord, I'm a purple belt. I'm supposed to be, I'm an ex-martial artist, professional fighter. I'm still choking them out. I'm still, get me wrong, I can still handle a blue belt, even a good purple belt. I get problems with brown belts and all that, black belts, that's another story. But, energy is like, I don't feel the same. So it wasn't like, it was my ego. Think about it. My ego made me go to the doctor.
Also, my doctor, who's a Russian doctor, she asked me to get her coconut oil because she says the government did a research to find out why the people of the Caribbean didn't have Alzheimer's and dementia like the rest of the world. And they found out that it was coconut oil. That's why they used to tell us that coconut oil gave us all different kind of sickness. Yeah. But it wasn't true because we never had Alzheimer's and anything like that until we start following what they told us to do.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, sister, because that's another thing. We have to be careful in what journal research we read because there is a conspiracy. So let's just say they already know a cheap, affordable way to prevent illnesses, whether it be coconut oil, whether it be Middle Eastern salt or whatever it may be. They're not going to really promote that because they need us to be in the hospital. They need us to be sick because that's where they make the money. So we have to be careful when these studies, we have to find out who's behind it. So that's when I first saw this documentary, and I want everybody to see this. It's on Netflix, and then several outlets, Netflix, I think HBO, and in different areas. I was ready to go. That's it. I'm vegan. That's it. I felt like when I first became an Israelite, I came home and started kicking the door down. Come, that has to go. That's pagan. This is an idol. You got to go. I open the fridge. All of this got to go, babe. Right? But then in the research, I stumble into these other guys and stumble other people, other doctors say, well, there's even vegans speaking against this documentary, saying it's not they exaggerate it because the image they gave is that you could become a better athlete if you take veganism, if you embrace. Not you could be a vegan and still be an athlete and compete competitively, because they only nitpicked all the people that were successful. But what about the people that were carnivores and they were successful? And the funny thing is, when you see the Joe Rogan interview, and when you see the entire interview, there's the guy that was running. He broke a record. He was running for a month straight. Like he runs, sleeps, gets up, eat, and runs. That's what he was doing for a month straight. He ran across the country in a vegan diet. Somebody else did it a few weeks later because the actual documentary, the time everything gets filmed and gets out, it was probably like 2 years ago. Somebody a few weeks ago broke that guy's record, and he's not a vegan. And besides, protein is not a diet that you will use for long distance running. It's usually carbohydrates, a lot of carbs, because that's what you burn energy. Protein is not really utilized when you're running. It's utilized when you're lifting, strength, right? When you get a hit, body is stronger because of protein and you're working out. But when you're running, it's actually what? a deterrent because you got all that muscle you got to carry. But you know it, by the third day, you already want to go home and quit. Usually runners are skinny, slim. They don't eat a lot of protein because they don't have to. So a vegan, not vegan, doesn't matter because protein is not the preferred diet for a long-distance runner. So they kind of were this meat, because they were like, wow, he did this without eating meat. Most distance runners don't eat meat, while they're in their training. And things like that. Now, one thing that I do agree that there's certain times that you should not eat meat to cleanse yourself of a detox. If you're doing a marathon and you want to train for the marathon, I recommend you slow down with the meat, things of that nature. Right. Even when you go into the interview, the much longer version, I don't want to be random on because I know that you guys want to eat. Is that was my thought. When you go, what was it? Come back to me. See, vitamin B12, you need it. Okay. Right? So, baby, let me get a little drop of that. What is that? I don't need that. Okay, so what was I saying? So when you go into the understanding of how the body works and things of that nature, and it's not this diet or that diet or his diet or things of that nature. Is what's the diet for you? There's a guy that I follow. He's like a famous mixed martial artist trainer. He's like training for the stars or the MMA stars. Forgot the guy's name. I think he's from American Top Team. That's the name of the group. And he got an email and he was responding to the email. And he said, well, I get this email all the time and say, how can I be like you? How can I train like you and be like you? He said, don't ever be like me. Be like you. Take your blood work, take your DNA, and find out what your DNA makeup, follow that regimen, and then do that. And you got like DNA companies, and I know a lot of you guys are against DNA taking, but there's a company called 21andMe that takes your DNA, and not only takes your DNA, but also gives you, depending on your body type and your DNA makeup, what food you should avoid that you may be allergic to, what sports you best will succeed in, right? Depending on, because everything, people get caught up with discrimination. We discriminate all the time in sports. You're too short. You're too tall. You're too big. You're too tall. You gotta be, right? A jockey is not going to be in the same height as a basketball player. He's going to be a little guy because his body type fits that sport. You understand? So all that is a factor in things of that nature. So all I'm saying is that find out what's right for you. You got to study your body. One thing about my wife, when she was getting better, she was going through her process, she listened to her body. She took certain things, and it didn't work out. She said, okay, I got to take something else. But you got to experiment because your body is unique. Not one body's the same. Very important. Don't be like me. Be like just be the best you. Find out who you are. Find out your blood sample. What blood type you are. That's different blood types. And it means different things. Different blood types, different food affects them differently. Get educated. That's very important. Okay, so I know this answering question times, but went to a lecture. Yes, sister. Nicole.
Shalom, everyone. So, Elder, you're saying that we could eat the inside, the pertinence of the animal?
Yeah. The pertinence. Now, a lot of people always think pertinence is what? Liver, gut, things of that nature. There's a lot of part within that is not that. They will have those vitamin B12 and things like that. Now, this is wild. I didn't put it in my slideshow. Certain part of the meat doesn't even have vitamin B12. There's certain areas. So I went to my fridge and I got a hamburger box. I looked at the ingredients. I read it. Protein, carbohydrates. No vitamin B12. So this animal was cut from an area that the vitamin B12. So if I'm an idiot thinking I got B12 because I eat hamburgers all the time, but you're not reading the ingredients. That part of the animal doesn't have B12. But if I go to a Jamaican spot and say, hey, let me get some curry chicken, that's going to have B12. Because a different part of it. Okay? So I hope I answered your question. Sister Danielle? Nicole? Nicole? I keep calling you Danielle.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but according to Scripture, the only law is you only don't eat the dung, the skin, and the skin within, inside the what you call that? The coal, C-O-U-L? Coal? It's like the inner skin of the animal. You burn that to the Most High.
Right. So when they had the lamb and they roasted the lamb with the inside,
Yeah.
but when they took it out after though, but they burnt it, so they didn't eat of that.
Yeah. So, well, my understanding is that you take out what you got to take out: the skin, the coal, and the dung.
Okay.
You sacrifice that, and then
Everything else you eat.
everything you eat.
Okay.
And then whatever is left over the next day, whether you could eat it or not, but it's leftovers, you burn it. You're not allowed to eat it.
Okay.
Okay. And I believe it's only for feast day food.
Okay.
I think if it's a regular food, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe speaking Shema, it could go up to the third day.
Third day. Okay.
Yeah, but if it's a feast day, it cannot go over night. No, I was just my answer was question was answered. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody here for the first time? First time in visiting? Okay. Who are you? Why are you here? Who invited you? And are you coming back? Let somebody pass the mic right here.
Shalom, brother Shar. I'm actually with the Gathering of Christ Cleveland, G.O.C.C. Cleveland.
All right,
Just
all
here visiting.
right.
Just kind of with my family.
Okay. All right. Welcome, Clevelandites. I assume that's your wife next door?
Yes.
Okay, welcome. All praises to the Most High. The whole family? Okay, you bring your tribe. Okay, all right. All right, so stand up, family. Take a bow, family. Take a bow, say hello. Your mom family, say hi. Shalom. All right, beautiful family. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Every time I see a big family, I always think, babe, we should have got more kids. But they would have been teenagers. See, they would not have been as cute. As, they would be like, I would have a 19-year-old son, Dad, hungry dad. That's not cute. It's annoying. I want a little baby. Stay like a little baby for the rest of your life. Hi, Dad. Then voice start changing and all that. Puberty. Right? But anyway, okay, thank you for coming. All praise to the Most High. So at this time, we're going to get ready to usher in the feast because we have a short announcement. We also have to...
Elder, we got one more.
We got one more. Okay, where you at?
I don't let them get by.
Where you at, one more?
I
Back there? Oh, there you go. Okay, sir, who are you? Who invited you? Why are you here?
How you doing? Name is Rawchaa. Invited by John.
Oh, Brother John. Okay, thank you, brother, for coming. Welcome. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. All praise to the Most High. Okay, all praise to the Most High. So we're going to get ready for the announcement, and also the choir is going to come up. We're going to usher in the feast, and then we, of course, the meal. We're going to be sending people upstairs to come back down to eat and things of that nature. But before we do that,